Lazavik for Team AGAL against Hikaru Nakamura for Team Falcons. The match is just about to start.
There we see Denis in deep thought.
And the game is off.
And we see a pawn on d4. That's what Denis Lazavik likes to do. We've seen him in action earlier, playing some Catalan, but against Hikaru, he has something special up his sleeve. Because one thing maybe Hikaru doesn't always excel at is like direct knowledge of sidelines. And Nakamura prepares to, just get a position of the opening. Goes pawn to e6. What is his opening, Zach? Talk us through it.
The Torre attack, named after
whom? After Rook?
Carlos Torre Repetto, the Mexican prodigy and super strong chess player. But that is not... We have basically a symmetrical game here, if not for that bishop on g5. That is the break of this position.
But that makes a big difference, no? That bishop is out and about, active, while black still has to develop the equivalent. That guy on c8 does have a less bright future. Pawn to b6, Hikaru being solid, wants to fianchetto that bishop, then castle, go pawn to c5. Nothing dramatic has happened. But looks like Denis knows what he's doing here.
Yeah, so far, no trades. Both players playing solid, developing their pieces, putting their pieces in place. And seems like Denis Lazavik is very well prepared in this position.
Knight jumps to the center, seeking immediate simplifications. Interesting approach by Nakamura. I'm wondering if Denis Lazavik is going to think about keeping these bishops on the board. Bishop to f4 does strike me as an option. He could, of course, exchange bishops, take on e7, the queen will recapture, and then keep playing short castle. Maybe a slight plus, because his pawn structure is better for the remaining bishops. But does he want more? This is your type of chess, right? Queen's pawn game, some quiet maneuvering.
Exactly. Absolute symmetry on the board. This is what I usually strive for. I'm kidding. I like more aggressive chess. But this is a very interesting question to the bishop on g5, which Denis Lazavik is taking some time to contemplate.
Thinking. Chisel out, and he does drop back to f4, which is a bit counterintuitive because it's your quote-unquote bad bishop. But the bad bishop is not so bad once it's outside the pawn chain. Bad bishop normally means the pawns are on the same color as that bishop, and it can be bad because the pawns are impeding it. But once the bishop already escaped, then it's fine. It has a clear line of view. The pawns can be on the dark squares. And here, white is more interested in keeping more pieces on the board. Hikaru is once again saying, please, let's exchange these bishops. Come on, Denis.
Now, what's the difference between leaving these bishops on the board and trading them off? Is it in white's purpose to keep them on the board?
Yeah, white has a little more space, so he wants as many minor pieces as possible on the board, so black remains cramped. And every exchange helps black finding squares for his pieces. An interesting decision here by Lazavik. He's saying, okay, we can exchange, but then you do the exchanging. I will recapture. Will give me a double pawn, but more importantly, will give me a grip over that crucial e5 square in the center. So Hikaru is saying, nah, you exchange.
Hikaru with that centralized, powerful knight on that e4 square. And now we finally see a trade on e6.
Lazavik is losing patience. He could not handle that standoff any longer. He does take. Nakamura doesn't hesitate. Takes with the pawns. Accepts double pawns, but controls a bunch of center squares.
Who do you prefer looking into this middle game here?
I think it's very close to equal. I wasn't in love with bishop takes d6. I think Denis should have doubled down. Kept the tension going. Here, once Hikaru solves his opening problems, I don't think he has anything to be worried about in particular. Should be roughly equal. White is solid, black is solid. I can't pick, it's equal. What do you want me to do?
You're itching no way.
I'm itching many different spots, but not any way.
I prefer this imbalance that Hikaru Nakamura created with these doubled pawns now. He might have the type of position which grants black a long-term potential to make this plank uneven.
I don't know. Denis is solid. He can always bail out with pawn to c4 if he feels like. Let's see if Hikaru Nakamura, the veteran, Florida man Hikaru Nakamura can mix it here, and he goes pawn to e5.
Onto e5, taking more center space here. Hikaru with 2 center pawns, looking very nice. Optically, this is a good show for black.
I don't know. This bishop on b7 bothers me staring down the pawns, but maybe Hikaru is active enough in the center to compensate for it. I'm not sure which side I like here.
And Denis Lazavik with his typical high beats per minute that he has had all along today, really. We haven't seen him much below 120.
130 is nothing for him. If he's below 150, he's calm.
Absolutely.
I have a rule question, by the way. If both Falcons make the top spots, only one of them can earn points, right?
Exactly.
So it's important to keep 2 horses in the race, but only one can score.
So would you say that Hikaru has more pressure or Denis Lazavik has more pressure?
I don't think either of them is particularly concerned about that aspect. But when top players play each other, especially in such an event with the lights being bright, lots of money at stake, there's always pressure. When it comes to who has more, Hikaru has been around the block a few times, while Denis is still newer to this type of event. So heart rate-wise, feels like he feels a little more pressure, but I'm not sure it hurts him.
It may be a tale of experience.
What's going on? Denis is sitting behind a very solid structure. Looks a bit passive, but he's arguing if Hikaru wants to expand further, he will close the position if he goes pawn to e4, and he will remain with his bad bishop. So Denis just sitting behind this very solid position, provoking Hikaru into action, which I think is a sound approach.
Hikaru is having trouble untangling this bad bishop on b7 that has virtually no scope in this position.
Doesn't have a lot to do. The question is, and yeah, he's going for it. Does he want to grab more space?
And he does.
Even at the cost of putting more pawns on the light squares. He does. And he goes b5, trying to create another square for his knight on b6. Interesting position. White is a better bishop, but he has fewer... Yeah, he has less space. I don't know who's better. I take white because I like these long-term things, but sometimes you can underestimate, attacks, h5, g6, or just space. Not sure.
I, for one, love the black pieces here. This is definitely something I would play with black personally. It seems like Hikaru is just taking up those squares. That c4 square has a nice grip from black. That e4 square has a nice grip now. And that d3 square is taken up. White's light squared bishop scope is completely gone.
Denis is trying to break the grip with pawn to f3, but that leaves some long-term weaknesses. If he has to do that, yeah, I might switch over.
You're switching over to my camp?
Well, no, not really, but f3 changed the situation. Now I don't like it as much anymore.
So you're uncomfortable with the weakness created on e3?
Always. g3, e3, all the weaknesses. But maybe at a point, his knight on h2 is passive, the bishop on b1 didn't have much to do. So he has to find some work for these pieces.
Not to mention Hikaru's struggling bishop still at large to find any squares from which it can be useful. And his knight is now completely stopped with
I like
this
the last move, b3, not only restricting that knight, but also preparing to take the pawn in the center, and then if black recaptures with the pawn, then you can go pawn to c4, making your own little pawn chain up the board. So Denis, well, he's always been a positional player. He's very subtle. He's not your typical 19-year-old hacker looking for tactics. He goes for a calm approach here. Even though I'm not sure I'm in love with this position, I don't think he minds a strategic battle even against Hikaru.
It seems like Hikaru has identified this moment as quite critical here. Can he manage to sidestep this little resource by the white pieces that you mentioned?
I don't know. Who won that Niemann against Magnus match, by the way? Do you know?
I don't know.
We don't know? Don't switch. This is more exciting. Just curious.
I'm saving it for tonight. Some popcorn needed in that hotel room.
Such a sicko. You haven't seen a single movie, but you'll catch up on chess broadcast with popcorn in the room.
So he takes here on f3. What do you think about this decision?
I don't know. Makes some sense. He doesn't wait for white to change the structure, unlock it, but he takes action into his own hands, Hikaru Nakamura. The man of action.
A very interesting struggle. You know, Black has a lot of pawn weaknesses with all those pawn islands, but it seems like there's no real way to attack them.
No, they cover a lot of squares, so they are not all bad, especially these double pawns in the center. They can't protect each other, but they can protect lots of squares adjacent. So yeah, I kind of like this decision, forcing the issue. Now I guess bishop comes back out to target at least that pawn on b5. The queen can cover it. No, he takes. Don't like that.
Wow.
Don't like that. And Hikaru doesn't like it either.
A little head shake by Hikaru, slightly surprised at that
No,
decision.
that was a strange strategic move. So now the queen can come out, the bishop can go back to d7, all of a sudden finds targets on the board. No, this was asking for some trouble.
And I love these dark squares that Hikaru can just hunt at right now. G3 looks like there's infiltration also possible on the A file. I'm starting to like the black pieces a lot here.
On to b4. Putting more pawns on dark squares, which in theory you shouldn't do against the light square bishop, because you don't restrict him like that. And it also gives black's knight new entry squares on c4 and a4. Feels like Denis is drifting a tiny bit here.
Denis wants his knight maybe to scale up to that c5 square with knight b3, knight c5.
Yeah, but will it get there? Because now Hikaru can start an attack. There's the rook already. The queen will come.
This expenditure of time now grants Hikaru some initiative against White's king.
Also, the black knight now has a c4 square, which is just as nice as the c5 square where the white knight went. Now, Hikaru Nakamura so far on track to get his revenge. What's all this revenge talk, Zach? I was told it's bad to have revenge in your heart.
Well, Vishy Anand famously said, if you need revenge for yourself, then use it over the board.
That's what he said?
Yes.
Strangely,
I'm paraphrasing, of
strange
course.
quote, yeah, I thought you might be. If you need revenge for yourself, then use it over the board?
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Well, it can help to have this psychological kind of anger within you. And if that helps your performance over the board, now why wouldn't you use that for yourself?
Okay. I only know it's a dish best served cold, which I also don't understand. Knight is on c4. I don't like White's position. Knight g4, but I mean, it can be targeted by the bishop now. Bishop d7, and we either have to give up our prettier knight or allow this bishop to enter the action, take on g4 or on h3.
Yes,
do not like it.
This black bishop, a long-time caveman, can re-enter the game, but not yet. The queen slides in.
Here comes the queen, preparing maybe h5 or f5, and then the queen can jump into that g3 square next to the king. That looks dangerous for White, because the pawn structure is also missing a pawn, a defender on the king side. So if the black f pawn ever comes, like f5, f4, it can get ugly. Lazavik, he's given black this bad bishop very cleanly and the good knight, but he paid too high a price, I think.
Exactly, and now he's facing a potentially devastating attack on this king side. What prevents Hikaru from just rushing his pawns down the board to try to checkmate this white king?
Do not know. Do you have a relationship with Hikaru? You're both famous content creators. Do you guys like get together and debate strategies, or everybody does their own thing?
Fantastic question.
Thank you, thank you.
Recently, I interviewed him at the Candidates right before he played the biggest tournament in the world at the time. And he had many interesting things to say about his career and his career in streaming. And that was a nice time. But other than that, no, I do not have much.
There's still time. And Lazavik gives a pawn.
Wow.
Understanding he's in trouble. He's trying to bail out, sacrificing a pawn to get rid of that pesky horsey on c4. But Vishyana once told me, a pawn is a pawn. Take it. Use it over the board. Paraphrasing.
And now it's a classic struggle of good knight against bad bishop. What can you tell us about this?
It's also a classic struggle of pawn up versus pawn down.
Fair enough.
I think black is just better, but yeah, Denis, he has this clean style. He's trying to simplify, even if it costs him a pawn. At least, you know, it's not getting checkmated, and maybe it was a good practical decision. But now, the extra pawn has to be more important. The knight on c5 looks nice, but often you have a knight sitting there very pretty on a nice square, but can't really join the action on the other side of the board. So it can be an illusion, this outpost far away from the action. Sometimes it doesn't help that much.
And Hikaru trying to mend this weakness of this bad bishop on c6 by just defending that square d7 and then bringing the bishop over.
Yeah, the bishop is not so bad. Can target h3.
Some dangerous threats against white's king. Do you trade out that knight and then just concede down a pawn full?
It's a bit sad. No, he goes king h1, but Hikaru can keep asking questions. Rook g3, queen h5. Yeah, there comes the queen. Doesn't look great. Maybe at some point you have to bite the bullet and take the bishop before you get checkmated. Yeah, he does it now. Gives a check.
Feels like Denis Lazavik is playing against the grain this entire game. That's the story of it. It's a struggle.
Rook to f8, though. What's the rook doing there? It's targeting a pawn, but if Hikaru spots that, and normally he spots these kind of things, goes, let's say, rook g3, covering that pawn. Oh, and he goes rook to a6, goes to the other side, goes for the open file.
Now,
trying to come sneak in. Oh, queen e1, but that allows rook a2. Can you
so allows a really critical rook infiltration on that a2 square, cutting that second rank in half, and he plays it.
The rook. Now, this was, you can't allow the rook on the second.
What can you tell us about the rook on the second?
I read in my favorite chess book, My System, rook on second, good. 2 rook on 7, even better.
So there you go. Hikaru knows what to do.
Denis is shaking his head now. He's realized that intruder, that rook endgame looks horrible. His rook is so active, can target either of the white lonely pawns there. No, this just looks winning.
Looks like a decisive endgame for Hikaru Nakamura with the black pieces here.
Around. Going for a quick victory with the black pieces, and as we've seen earlier, to come back with black is tough.
Yes, this would be a very important point for Hikaru and Team Falcon here.
How do you win? Maybe you can just take it slow. King g5, f5, f4. He doesn't even have to take a pawn directly. But I'm not sure. Instead of rook to c2 as he played, he could have played rook c7, attack from the other side. And I think white collapses. Denis is fighting.
Now both players are hitting at each other's weaknesses.
Yeah. Normally it's good for the defender if pawns get exchanged. The problem he has here is black remains with 4 pawns on one side against 2, and the passer has... Oh, he blundered, he blundered! So now if these pawns get exchanged, then it's a draw. He has blundered.
They do! It's a draw suddenly!
Denis escapes, wow!
Oh my goodness, what resilience by the 19-year-old!
Just as I was giving my speech, Hikaru allows the exchange of pawns, and now, even though I normally believe in the attacker in rook endgames, here there's not a lot of material left. This should be a draw.
White could even give that second pawn and it would still be a draw.
Yeah, he gives it, but rook h3, king f4. Now Denis is saving this.
Incredible resistance by Denis Lazavik.
But also look at the clock. Look at the clock. 14 seconds. Hikaru is not above winning on time in rook versus rook. If
he might try to flag Denis Lazavik last second to get a win.
These are online guys,
rook versus rook. It's a flagging fest.
It's Denis can make a lot of moves.
Can Hikaru flag Denis Lazavik in time? Denis only has 6 seconds to his name.
This
is impossible to defend. And he loses a rook. He loses the game.
The rook
Hikaru Nakamura takes this game 1 with the black pieces.
Hikaru's angry because he had a winning position. He messed up and he had to go into the dark arts of flagging to win this game. While he could have won cleanly over the board. But you know what? It's still 1 point.
That is what this time format is all about. If you can't win on the board, you need to try to win on the clock. And that's what Hikaru has done, taking a lead in this match.
Very much so. Putting Denis Lazavik in a must-win situation now with the black pieces. Not a great spot.
Hikaru's shaking
still
his head.
angry?
He's still
Is that
unhappy.
for the
He won a
cameras?
game.
He's happy he won. Come on, Hikaru.
He's so unhappy.